There's a world out there, it's a digital maze where dollars move in mysterious ways. Complex systems, rules, and regulations. The payments professor sparks revelations. No need to fear the Fed now.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Payments Podium. Today I have a very special guest. It is Jackie Pagan from Echo. Jackie, would you please say hi to everybody?
Hi, everyone. Glad to be here.
All right, we're going to be discussing a very important topic, and that is going to be certification and the importance of certification. And I brought Jackie in because, well, she's going to explain who she is and what she does. But Jackie, to get started on the Payments Podium, everybody who listens knows the question that's coming. And that is, how did you get started in electronic payments? Because getting started in the world of electronic payments is usually not one of those things that you go, well, growing up, all I could think about was I wanted to scan checks and I wanted to be working in the back office processing checks. So how did you end up where you are now, and where is it that you are now?
So glad. Thank you for inviting me, and excellent question. A lot of people don't ask that most of the time. Believe it or not, I did not start in the check or in the payments arena. I started more in the medical arena, and then I migrated to credit card through a predecessor bank. Stayed with the credit card side for a few years. Did some executive management rotation there. And then one opportunity came up was to learn about checks as we were migrating branches. So then that gave me the whole opportunity to talk about checks, learn about checks, and as the industry was evolving into electronic, I was right there at the beginning stages of converting a paper check into electronic mobile uh, deposits, ATMs that are image enabled, all of that. So gave me a great opportunity to start there and got thrown in there, but learned a lot through the process.
Okay, I love thrown in there because that is one key thing that a lot of us have to say is like, I didn't plan on being here. Suddenly I got tossed into the job. I could do it and I was good at it. And there's something too, is we all seem to share a passion for electronic payments. And now, okay, but what is it you actually do now? Who is it you work for? What is your title?
So I'm a VP, Vice President at Echo, which is a business line of the clearinghouse. And I'm the director of the National Check Payment Certification.
Okay, Echo. Now, spoiler alert, folks, we're going to have another podcast on who Echo is and what they do. So you're going to have to come back to learn about that. We're not going to go into that right now. But you talked about National Check Certification Program. I know it to be NCP. Could you tell us a little bit more about that? Because that's why I wanted you here today.
Sure. So the National Check Certification, or NCP, National Payment Certification, is really a premier accreditation, which really enables career enhancement opportunities for payments professionals, right? So especially for those that earn it and maintain it through its continuing education program. It really does provide institutions a ready means of developing and enhancing institutional knowledge, which helps combat check fraud ultimately. We do know that from years, the past few years, a lot of that expertise has exited the financial institutions. So again, this is a great opportunity and a great avenue for people to, number one, add to their career, and number two, for a financial institution to replace that expert that exited. And we do always recommend that whoever wants to take the exam and earn the certification have at least 2 years or more in the financial industry.
Okay, NCP, National Check Professional, is what it is. It's the ability to really have some more letters after your name. And a way I like to put it is stand out from the crowd. It is a
Yep.
way to be able to show you know some stuff. You know some stuff about checks. Would that be a true statement?
Absolutely, absolutely. The NCP is really a skilled professional, right? They're recognized and they're able to reduce check issues, mitigate risk effectively, know the ins and outs, and help really with critical customer issues.
Okay, I like that. Know the ins and out of the issues. They know a lot about checks. Okay, NCP. for people who are listening and they're hearing about this NCP program, are they going to be like, is this something that's brand new, or is the NCP program something that's been around for a little while?
No, the NCP program's been here since 2011. ECHO was approached back then by a couple payment associations saying, look, we don't have a certification or anything related to that around check payments, but we do have for ACH. How can we get that launched? And now, 14 years after we launched it, we've had over 1,400 NCPs. Um, 49 of the states and Guam. We're still missing Rhode Island. Come on in, Rhode Island. We need one of you. And then currently we have about 923 active NCP. So, still very active and very needed within the industry.
How many was that active again?
923.
923. Okay, if I do my math, and now you got to watch me on my math. I rely on a calculator. Yes, I know I work in electronic banking, and that sounds scary. But if I do my math, there's around 9,000 plus financial institutions, and they're all processing checks. I mean, that's a fact. Checks are around still. And there's only around 923 active NCPs. That tells me there's a lot of financial institutions that need an NCP.
Correct. Correct.
In fact, okay, that's a good question. What does it mean to a financial institution to have an NCP on staff?
I think that for a financial institution, the NCP's primary goal is to educate, right? Their industry staff, their staff on key facets of check processing and collection. So what it means to them is not only are they helping with their career development of their individuals and earning, or gaining that expert, but the program helps them enhance the knowledge while also recognizing those experts that have now that designation. Like you said, many institutions recognize them, promote them, put place them in very key areas to help mitigate the risks that they might incur.
Well, it's interesting that you say that. It helps a financial institution because they're going to have expertise on staff. They're going to have somebody who's going to be able to know that, hey, this is something that is important and critical to the payment structure, the industry overall, the financial security really of the nation, not just that financial institution. And I get asked a lot, how do you get young people to come in and want to work with checks? And you kind of nailed it right there. It helps them to be able to stand out as experts. It helps them to understand another payment channel and how it plays into the whole ecosystem of all payments.
Absolutely, absolutely. For an individual, this shows that they have that superior skills and knowledge, right? As well as their commitment to their profession because they invest time in studying for this and earning it. Some additional benefits for that individual is a career development and promotion, right? And I've heard that in many cases. It not only gives them the skills and the knowledge, but now it elevates, like you mentioned earlier, elevates them to a different level compared to other individuals in their financial institution.
So basically, I get certified, I get NCP after my name. Does that mean there are jobs out there that I can go apply for that I wouldn't have maybe necessarily been considered for before?
That's a good question. I mean, I've heard that that is true. That they've actually been promoted to a new role because they're helping their financial institutions uh, not only mitigate risk, but understand the regulatory rights and obligations they have, right? And how they could better resolve issues between two financial institutions or between a customer and them understanding agreements, because we do have agreements with our consumers. So you're really having all that knowledge so that you ultimately know who should bear the risk or who should bear the liability, right? In many cases. But really, it's that promotion and that opportunity for that individual who earns it.
I think that's huge. In fact, okay, those of you watching and listening right now, you're probably going, wow, Professor, you're really a big fan of this. I am NCP certified. In fact, I just recently let my NCP instructor certification lapse because I'm so busy with so many other things. That's how big I believe in the NCP program. I have personally seen where people got promotions, got raises, got jobs because of having the NCP certification. But what you just hit on, I think, is huge. And it's not just what does it mean for them, but what do they learn? You, like you said, it helps them to resolve issues. It helps them to understand the different agreements, the different things that are happening in the check world. For example, have you ever seen a situation where somebody, because of what they learned from becoming an NCP, maybe saved their financial institution from losing money?
Absolutely. They've actually been engaged with their fraud department and maybe identified over thousands of dollars in combination of a certain deposit where they were able to recover it. They didn't know that before, and now they know how they could potentially recover it through a claims process, through understanding, hey, I had a right, or this other bank warranted that this item that was converted from a paper check to an electronic check, they didn't convert it properly. It was missing data, so they warranted it was exactly as the paper. Now I have that right. Or if there's a duplicate, I have a right. The rules say I shouldn't pay it twice. So because of that knowledge, they can go back, see the issue, and say, okay, here's where we have to then partner either with our fraud, with our legal. How do we go and recover that money, right? So yeah,
I
absolutely.
love those situations. Like I get goosebumps thinking about it because I've seen those exact ones where people are like, "Oh, we're just going to take the loss. We're going to lose money." I've actually seen situations where people are at a potential of maybe losing a job, but
Yeah,
then they're able to say, "No, no, 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 no." See, because of what I learned from being an NCP, what I know based off of the rules, because of Reg CC, because of UCC 4, UCC 3. If you don't know what these things are, you study being NCP, you will. Because of what I know of ECHO rules, you are able to go out and you are able to do things. You are able to get thousands, I mean, thousands and thousands of dollars you are able to get back that would have normally been lost. So I think that's incredible. And I mean, that alone is a major benefit to getting the certification.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I think they also learn that they have agreements within their customers where they have a right to go back to their customer and, have them accountable because they failed to either one, secure the original item, and then somebody took it, or they were the fraudster, and they could identify that as well. So, there's different ways.
Okay, what else are you going to learn? Because we talked a lot already. I mean, I started mentioning these different regulations, and you regulations can scare people. But you talked a lot about agreements. I hear things like bearer of instruments, flipping records. Phyllis Meyerson, was a hero of mine when it came to checks, and I remember she taught me about flipping records all the time. What other types of things do people learn when they're studying for the NCP?
I mean, you get a vast amount of knowledge, right? So you get to understand there's four categories, right, to prepare for the exam. So not just rules, laws, and regulations, but you understand fraud and risk mitigation, what type of fraud it is, whether it's a counterfeit versus an altered item, the rights there. You understand too operational things. Maybe somebody is very knowledgeable in ACH, but they have to learn about check conversions. They have a little bit more knowledge, expanded knowledge of what item processing is, how adjustments work, how to expedite issues that are exceptions. We want everything to go straight through, right? So a check gets converted from a paper to a digital, and then everything goes well, and then everything gets paid. Well, that's not 90% of the time. I mean, hopefully it is, but maybe that's that 10% where it still has a problem, and that was large dollars. How do they get resolved? Who behind the scenes is resolving that? If somebody deposited a check in an ATM and two signatures were required, was that item properly negotiated? No. And what does the customer do in return? What does the financial institution do? And then also understanding the type of product like positive pay for business customers. And that is that, they could probably mitigate risk by saying, hey, I didn't pay that item, and making sure that they notify. And then on top of that, understanding agreements as to How long does a customer have to notify a financial institution that they had an incident or a fraud incident? It shouldn't be a year. What does the customer agreement say? 30, 60, 90 days? And if it's beyond that, does your customer have a right? Or do you have to do anything because they really did not fulfill their obligation with the bank? So all of that and a number of other things is what you really learn.
Okay, that in itself was huge. Because I mean, right when you started there, I remember in my early days of learning checks, and it was a long time ago, let's just say, just understanding the difference between an exception and an adjustment took me a while to wrap my head around. But once you get it, it's amazing of what that can do for a financial institution. And we keep saying fraud and fraud. Okay, what's happening in the world of check fraud right now? I mean, that for real, we're seeing a lot of check fraud. And to be able to know how to combat check fraud, I think that is a tool that any financial professional or institution, even fintech, would want to have in their arsenal.
Absolutely. I think, and it's my opinion, not necessarily that of Echo, the clearinghouse, is that a lot of the check fraud came about probably because individuals either are not safeguarding their paper checks. Institutions might not be at the front end checking that is, that's Kevin who's depositing a check at the branch, not Mr. So and so, because we're trying to do things too fast. Or, so a lot of that check fraud is happening, and we have the spotlight, but other payments also have a fraud. But as we're talking about check, how do we mitigate that? I always think that the front line is our first line of defense. What can branches do? Take their time, validate. Is there a system alert on that account? Are you looking at it? And even having NCPs at the branch side, that they know that they should be checking. Is this check altered? Does it look odd? Taking that moment to question whether that's a valid check or not. I know that people do that with cash. They pull it up in the light to see there's certain watermarks and stuff.
And they get the little pin and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, they should basically take a little bit more time at doing that. And are your when there's mobile payments, is your customer destroying the check as they're supposed to, or are they letting it go and then all of a sudden it has little legs and ends up somewhere else? You know, what is their obligations?
Right. And how do you properly endorse? But here's another question. I got to ask this one too, because again, I'm a big fan of all kinds of certifications. I think everybody should get education, understand, become an expert in your field. And I love the NCP. But I get this question a lot. Checks are declining. We keep hearing checks are going away, checks are declining. Why would I want to get a certification in something that's declining? What do you tell people to that? I know I got an answer for that. What do you tell people to that?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question. Um, Let me put it this way. Each year, there's billions of checks valued at trillions of dollars that are exchanged. It's not a small amount of money that we're talking about. Check payments are still a valuable payment option for consumers, just like cash. So it's not going to go away in our lifetime. And and you and I were chatting about this earlier, but if the electronic system collapses for whatever reason, what is your backup? Checks or cash? So again, by taking this certification, you're recognized as having that expert level payments acumen, right? That helps combat fraud, helps enable customers being happy. And again, I have to say that many institutions or many individuals are saying this is a great way to earn a designation, not only to minimize risk, expedite customer issues, but to earn promotion. Have something new in your DNA to be an expert, to have that label as an expert. And why not? Education is very important, and this is no different. It's a very valuable payment option still.
Well, and I have found nobody really works with just one singular payment channel very often anymore. We do see that in some of the very large institutions where, yes, you may be siloed into a single channel. But other than that, most people nowadays, you're working with multiple channels. And if you can get to become an expert in understanding checks, there's bleed over knowledge that you will be able to apply to other payment channels and just understanding, hey, when I know what happens here in checks and the risks that are here and how the rules and regulations are happening here, it helps me gain a better understanding of the other payment channels as well. It also puts you in a position to where you can become the leader of that department. Just saying, something to consider. All right, here's it. I'm sold now. I want to become an NCP. I'm sure somebody's out there going, I want this. I want this. What do I do? Where do I sign up? How's this happen?
Okay, so you can go to our website, right, under the clearinghouse slash echo slash NCP certification, or send us an email at ncp at the clearinghouse. There, we do have a website that kind of walks through it, how to sign up, how to register, and all that. Maybe it would be a good opportunity to kind of, Kevin, give kind of how it works, how the exam works at this
Okay.
point, right? So, just so everybody's aware, it is a certification, just like any other certification.
So we want them to know what they're signing up for is basically what you're
Correct,
saying.
correct. So it's a 3 hour computer-based multiple choice question. It's 120 multiple choice question. 100 is scored. 20 are used for future exam. The good thing is that this year we kicked off a practice test that's part of your registration. And as I mentioned earlier, there's 4 categories that the individuals are tested on, which they have to study. Um, Rules, laws, regulations, that's 34%, 30% on fraud and risk mitigation, 30% on operations, and 6% on products. So it really is an individual can either study by themselves at the time they register, because we give them materials to be ready. And I've seen a number of individuals do it that way, but you have to dedicate time, right? As I mentioned.
Right? You have a study guide that you give too, right? And I believe there's a roadmap that you give that says, hey, study this stuff and go through all this. I mean, I think you have some great materials that are available.
Yeah, so they could use that. And like I mentioned earlier, if they study 60 plus hours, they really master the content, or they could actually enroll in an NCP training, prep training session, which we really partner with excellent payment associations who have great exam prep courses. Usually these are self-paced series that provides just a foundational understanding of the check. They allow for question and answers from the instructions. And of course, they cover risk, rules, regulations, everything that we talked about in those 4 categories. And then, of course,
Well,
um,
wait, that's going to be like my friends over at SFE,
yeah,
ePay Resources, Payments First, EPCOR, those types of organizations, even Niche, that they offer those types of programs. Those are the payment associations that that they can go to, that you've got the partnership deals where I believe you've even certified them to be NCP trainers.
correct, correct. Even our TCHPA, we have another business line that also is a payments authority similar to payments. So, I mean, yes, they're certified trainers, and they have curriculum that they provide. And again, it provides them an opportunity to have that connection. They have study buddies, sometimes some of the payment associations. So they really try to prep them. And for more information on those partner offerings, our website also mentions those and provides those. But ultimately, we want to equip them, and the practice test also gives them kind of a real exam flavor of the questions. And you could do that a couple times. The registration allows 2 attempts on the practice test. But again, a note to mention is that performance on the practice test does not guarantee success in the exam. They have to really study to achieve the NCP. One thing, Kevin, is that people mistakenly think, oh, I have 30 years in check operations, so I should be able to pass it. Well, what happens is they might know about check operations and processing, but guess what? They don't know the regulations, the rights and obligations and all that. And that's where they really are not
You got to know the
successful.
whole picture
Yeah.
or the,
Yep.
or the whole check.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I've got to go learn all of that. I got to do all that studying. And you said it's a test. I get 3 hours to take 120 multiple choice questions. Do I have to like go somewhere and actually take this test? Or is there like certain times of the year? Can I just take it whenever?
So we offer it once a year.
Mhm.
And the good news is that we're the only certification that I know of right now that offers, especially of our type, um, is that offers either you can go and proctor and take the exam at a physical location or on view online, which you could do it at the comfort of your home or at the office. You're still monitored by a proctor real time. And there's a lot of information that we have on our website that details more. But so you have those two options. And really, some people like the comfort of being at home. There's requirements they have to follow, but really it helps bring down maybe the stress and the anxiety because they're in a comfortable area, and so it's still something that's available to them.
Okay, I take the test, whether I go somewhere or I do it in person or in my own home. And I've done the in home thing, just so you know. They have you take a camera and make sure you don't have notes, you're not cheating or anything like that. It's pretty cool. When I'm done with the test, how do I know if I passed or not? Am I gonna like have you're gonna tell me 3 months later, or will I know that day?
No, you'll know that day. So as soon as you're done with the exam, you'll have a result right there, and if you pass, basically your job is not done, if you will. I mean, there's still some things to maintain it, but again, you'll get an instant um, result.
I like instant gratification, so that's important for me.
Yeah.
Okay, but what I want to, you said there's things to maintain it. So if I want to stay certified, do I have to retest every year, or what's that process going to look like?
No. So part of the requirements, and that's the continuing education portion of the certification that goes along with you maintaining it, is that you have to have earn 50 approved continuing education credits every 5 years to maintain it. If you don't, you have to retake the exam. Plus, you have to participate in or attend 3 ECHO-hosted workshops within that 5 year. So 50 approved continuing education credits, and then host 3 workshops every 5 years. Not a lot. And we do provide also on the website some ways, easy ways that people to get credits. If you go to a conference, you'll see sometimes where you'll see NCP credits, AAP credits. So, there's ways for people to really earn those 50 credits pretty easily.
Well, and I'm a big fan of that. It's called continuing education, and it's just making sure that you're staying on top of what's happening in the industry. You're making sure to continuing your education, so you're aware of the trends, the changes, if there are changes in any rules or things like that. And somebody who's been accredited for a long time and had to go through the recertification, it's not that hard to do either. It's really very easy. I have found when it comes to the workshops, the harder part was choosing which 3 was really the difficult part, more so than getting them scheduled.
Yeah, and we do have already re-recorded sessions, and then there's live sessions, 3 live sessions every year. So there's opportunity for either go and purchase the workshop that's live, or go and purchase the one that's on demand. Depends on what you want and where you want to enhance your development, right?
Okay, here's another thing. Is there like any type of recognition that happens after you've gotten certified? Like, I know sometimes there's like national, days to recognize people for certifications, or I know sometimes when I go to conferences, there's special receptions or breakfasts or things like that. When I get an NCP, what's it going to look like after I've gotten certified when I go to conferences and things like that?
Well, we do ECHO host an NCP day to celebrate the class, but also financial institutions celebrate them. I've seen people that acknowledge them and give them, either put them in newsletters. I know that the payment associations also announce all their members that have earned it and really applaud them. But as they go to conferences, they also receive a special badge acknowledging that they earned that designation and that they're an NCP. So a lot of recognition that goes about. And sometimes some of the individuals step up and even become speakers, which, hey, through the program, we give speakers double the credits to speak on check related topics. So a lot of opportunities.
Double the credits. All right, I'm sold. Folks, for those of you out here listening, if you really want to advance your career, you want to be able to know more about checks, you want to be able to protect your financial institution, the NCP program is the way to go. Jackie, one more time, where did they go to learn more information about this?
Sure, they could contact us at ncp at theclearinghouse.org. Just send us an email or go to theclearinghouse.org/echo/NCP certification.
Okay, well, thank you so much for being here. I can certify this has been one heck of a great podcast on learning about the NCP program. For those of you listening, if there's another certification maybe you want to learn about, maybe there's some payments expert that you know needs to be on the podcast, or just another topic in general that needs to be on the payments podium, get with me, the payments professor, Kevin at paymentsprofessor.com. I will do my best to make sure that we get that person or we get that topic addressed. But for now, this is the part where I say, class dismissed.
There's a world out there, it's a digital maze where dollars move in mysterious ways. Complex systems, rules, and regulations. The payments professor sparks revelations. No